For pretty much all of human history, we've thought of aging as this unstoppable force of nature, something that just kind of happens to us. But what if that's not the whole story? Today, we're going to dive into some really groundbreaking science that could completely flip how we think about getting older. So let's just kick things off with a huge question. What if aging isn't this inevitable destination? What if it's less like a clock that's constantly ticking down and more like a process we can actually, influence, manage, and maybe even slow way, way down? I know it's a radical idea, but it's one that's gaining some serious scientific momentum. And our guide through all of this is the work of a leading biologist and gerontologist, Alexei Moskalev. All his research has been compiled into what's basically an encyclopedia for a long and healthy life. And the central idea? Man, it's just so empowering. Aging is this series of deep-seated changes. Yeah, but we have way more control over them than we ever imagined. And I love this quote because it connects what's happening on the inside with what we see on the outside. The source makes this fantastic point that things we think are superficial, like our skin, our hair, our posture, they're actually direct readouts of our internal health. The goal here isn't just about living longer. It's about looking and feeling amazing while we do it.
All right, let's get into the first part. To really get a handle on how we can influence aging, we've got to start by busting some of the biggest myths about how it all works.
So the biggest myth, the one we all kind of grew up with, is that aging is just hardwired into our DNA. You're born, you live, you get old, end of story. But the science is telling a completely different story now. It suggests aging is way more like an accumulation of damage, a slow breakdown that we can actually work to prevent and even repair. And this is the perfect way to think about it. Imagine your body is this incredibly complex machine, just full of interlocking gears. Now, over time, of course, those gears can start to wear down, maybe get a little rusty, or fall out of alignment. Well, that's basically aging in a nutshell. But here's the good news. We're finally getting our hands on the owner's manual. We can actually learn how to maintain the machine. Okay, so if we're going to do some maintenance on this machine, where do we even start? Well, according to this research, it all begins in a place you might not expect, your gut. This is the real control center for your entire body. The book really hammers this point home, this idea of achieving the intestine of a centenarian. And we're not just talking about good digestion here. A healthy, balanced gut is described as the absolute foundation for everything else, from your immune system to your mood, and most importantly for our chat today, the speed at which you age. And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, you have over 100 trillion microbes living in your gut. To put that in perspective, that's more tiny organisms living inside you than there are stars in our entire Milky Way galaxy. It's this incredible, bustling city inside of you, and keeping its residents happy is job number one for slowing down those aging gears.
So if the gut is our control center, what's the operating manual? What are the instructions we give it? Well, that brings us to our next big pillar, the principles of a longevity diet. Because what we eat sends direct signals to our body's machinery, telling it to either hit the accelerator on aging or to pump the brakes.
One of the simplest, most powerful, and scientifically proven principles in this whole field is right here. Eat less, live longer. Now, this isn't about starving yourself. Not at all. It's simply about avoiding constantly overeating. That one simple act sends this massive signal throughout your entire body to switch out of growth mode and into repair and maintenance mode. So what's actually happening deep down in your cells when you do that? Well, it's like you have these two opposing pathways. On one side, you've got the mTOR pathway. You can think of this as the growth engine. It gets fired up by things like too much protein, and when it's always running, it can actually speed up aging. But on the other side, you've got the AMPK pathway. This is your repair crew. It gets activated when your body has an energy deficit, like from caloric restriction, and its job is to tell your cells to clean house, repair damage, and slow the whole aging process down. So the name of the game is pretty simple, right? We want to turn down the growth engine and call in the repair crew as often as possible. And how do we do that? Well, first, caloric restriction, eating a little less, wakes up that AMPK repair crew. Second, managing how much animal protein you eat helps to quiet down that mTOR growth engine. And when you do those things, you trigger this incredible process called autophagy. Think of it like your body's own internal cleanup service, recycling old, junky cell parts to make room for fresh new ones. Okay, so we've talked about eating less.
Now let's talk about what we should be eating when we do eat. It turns out certain foods are packed with these powerful compounds that act like high-performance fuel for our bodies, directly helping us fight the mechanisms of aging. And science has a pretty cool name for these substances: geroprotectors. Just like it sounds, they literally protect you from aging. And the best part? These aren't hidden away in some magic pill. They're found in tons of everyday foods and plants, and they get to work protecting your body on a molecular level.
And here's a look at some of the heavy hitters. You've got curcumin from turmeric. That's a beast when it comes to inflammation. Resveratrol from grapes. Yeah, the stuff you hear about in red wine. Ficitin, which you can find in strawberries and apples, helps clear out those old damaged cells. Sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts, catechins from green tea, and lycopene from tomatoes. Basically, eating these foods is like giving your body's repair crew a whole team of elite specialists.
All right, so we've got the gut, we've got the diet, we've got these specific foods, and that's all stuff we can do right now. But what's on the horizon? Because believe me, what we're talking about today is just the tip of the iceberg.
And this quote, wow, this really captures the sheer ambition of where modern longevity science is headed. The goal is no longer just about helping a few more people get to 100. The real goal is to fundamentally rewrite what we thought was possible for the human lifespan. I mean, just look at the kind of stuff researchers are working on right now. It is straight out of science fiction. We're talking about gene therapies that could literally correct age-related glitches in our DNA, cellular therapies to swap out old cells for brand new ones, the ability to grow and transplant new organs on demand, and even nanotechnology, tiny robots that could go inside us and make repairs. It's incredible. But here's what's so important to remember through all of this. The ultimate goal isn't just about extending our lifespan, the number of years on the calendar. The real prize, the holy grail, is extending our health span, the number of years we get to live in good health, feeling vibrant and active. It's about adding more life to our years, not just more years to our life. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty massive question to chew on. The strategies we talked about today are already out there, within our grasp. But as this technology keeps getting better and better, if we really can slow down the biological process of aging in a radical way, what's the limit? Is there even a limit? That's a wild thing to think about.